Hello, welcome again to the course on workplace management. This module is about workplace services. My name is Tamás Berki and I will guide through the design and management of workplace services. So first of all, talking about workplace services, the first question is what is a service? Facilities management standard defines them as a time-perishable, intangible activity performed for an entity. Thus, opposed to products, services are intangible and perish as the delivery of service ends. These characteristics differentiate them from products, which has important consequences for their design and management. So in the context of the workplace services refer to the services which support the buyers and end users of a workplace and support employees to carry out their tasks and processes effectively. Now take a look around in this office. You see the physical environment, but can you also recognize different services? Well, there are the lighting services, the heating and ventilation systems, the IT systems that support both individual and group work, also the meeting facilities, and the cleaning. There are storage facilities, also the Wi-Fi and virtual private network, presentational tools for group work, books from the library, and the coffee that is available for you in the office. So, as you can see, services are omnipresent in the office and they provide both for the operation of basic building functions and for functions that directly support work processes. The next topic is how can we categorize workplace services? One issue to clarify here is that we will use facility and workplace services interchangeably. Traditional facility services are services which are connected to the premises of an organization, and they may encompass a wide range of services, including, for instance, well-being services beyond technical ones. We also have to note that the physical boundaries of the workplace are increasingly blurred, and there are a number of services offered to employees outside the premises of the organization. Thus, we will regard here all services provided for employees as workplace services. Workplace services are categorized by facility standards as space and infrastructure and people and organization-related services, also referred to as hard FM and soft FM. In line with this, Tronconi and Ciaramella divide facility management services into building services, services to the organization, and services to the people. Services delivered to spaces and buildings are defined as services that aim at the maintenance of the property, the plants, and facilities belonging to it. Typical services in this category include the maintenance of the electrical, mechanical systems, fire safety systems, elevators, or the green areas. But why all these systems are considered services? Although these physical elements are not intangible, but to be functional, they require a service as electricity, water, or maintenance. It is also worth noting that intelligent building systems collect a vast amount of data about the workplace environment. And based on this data, they are able to customize personalized building services, an important element in service experience. The design and management of workplace is regulated by national occupational health and safety, fire safety, and building regulations, based on common directives in the European Union and to some extent on conventions of the International Labour Organization. In an office context, the so-called Framework Directive on Occupational Health and Safety, the one on workplace requirements, and the one on display screen equipment are significant. The legal framework in each country specifies exact minimum requirements towards room temperature, air quality, light, noise, elevators, restrooms to provide for the health and safety of employees. These requirements are mainly served by hard FM services, therefore especially hard FM services are fundamental in ensuring an adequate level of safety and health at the workplace, and also legal requirements are important when designing these services. Services delivered to people display a great variety. They include on one hand services that ensure a safe and hygienic environment and basic psychological needs or directly support work processes. And on the other hand, services that go beyond the basic needs of employees and may belong to the category of non-financial incentives. In the first category, we find, for instance, catering, cleaning, environmental hygiene, or pest control services, while in the second one, well-being services such as the gym, an office play zone, yoga classes, guided meditation, snack bar, or a laundry service. In addition to that, an enhanced level of the basic services, such as a cafeteria offering a variety of healthy food, can also serve as an incentive for employees. Given the great choice of services, you are probably interested in which services employees value most. There are different views on the value of services. Some researchers found that the most important value of the workplace are experience-related services. According to Leesman Index, 11 out of the top 20 workplace features are services, while Gensler's US Workplace Survey stated that people value most those amenities which are related to the direct needs of the job. And Appel Muhlenbrook also confirmed that the importance of specific services stem from job-related characteristics. As for the importance of specific services, services related to basic hygiene, tea, coffee, refreshment, temperature, cleanliness, safety are considered the most important ones by employees. And these are followed by work-related features as IT, Wi-Fi, printing, parking, travel, and also by canteen and catering. You could say that if these basic and work-related services are not functioning well, that makes employees unhappy, while incentive or comfort services as tech tools, fitness, recreation, perks such as snack make them more satisfied, but their absence doesn't cause dissatisfaction. As we already noted, workplace services tend to extend beyond the physical boundaries of the office, and it is probably that the coronavirus pandemic just reinforced this trend. The most important services outside the main premises usually are services at secondary office sites in a distributed workplace concept, including office space in serviced offices or co-working spaces rented by or offered to employees by a company. The company can also offer services accessible at a discounted price in the urban neighborhood, just as a bar, restaurant, or a laundry service, wellness, recreational, and health services outside the office space. And with the spread of remote work, services offered at the home of employees, for instance repair, are also getting an importance. Finally, one can also consider the virtual environment and services as a new type of space where employees meet and work together. And indeed, employees are often assisted by virtual applications to access all these services. Talking about the expansion of services, please note that servitization is a general trend. Instead of buying a tangible product, consumers tend to use these as services. One well-known example is car sharing. Instead of buying a car, we just use a service only for a period when we actually need it. Servitization reaches offices too. Instead of owning a property or which is similar, being bound to a long lease, office space is rented as a service on increasingly flexible terms. Therefore, workplace management itself is also focusing more and more on the management of services. This service focus renders greater importance to user experience, to the final outcome of the service, and to the service process. Why experience and the service process are so important? Well, services have some distinctive features because production and consumption take place at the same time. In this process, users influence the outcome of the process. They effectively co-create the outcome of the service together with the supplier. Let's take the example of a yoga class in the workplace. How much you are able and ready to follow the instructions as a participant, what is your emotional status when you enter the class, and what is your previous experience with yoga will all influence your experience about the class and your satisfaction with the yoga teacher. Therefore, in services, there is a need to take into account the perspective of users and to provide for a degree of customization or personalization. These underlying features result in three key characteristics of services. First, intangibility. meaning they cannot be physically sensed and thus measured in the same manner as tangible products. Second, heterogeneity, which means they are never delivered in exactly the same way, and thus it is a challenge to ensure consistent quality in services. And finally, perishability, meaning services cannot be stored, and for this reason it is more difficult to match demand and supply, such as demand for office space and its supply. There are several implications for the management of services that stem from these characteristics. As for sourcing, it is not possible to assess the end result of the service because it is not tangible. Thus, the selection of suppliers has to rely on the assessment of its capacities and capabilities. The selection and management of service personnel is also crucial, as the behavior of service staff is the actual representation of the service. Let's take the example of a bored or not very informed receptionist, who can ruin the experience even in the most exclusively designed office lobby. Thus, the quality of the service is judged not only by the final outcome, but also by the experience during the delivery. This implies that the characteristics of users influence their participation in the process, and as such, it requires a well-designed end-to-end process with attention to interfaces with other processes, which are the usual weak points in services. As said, the design of services requires the profound understanding of user needs and behavior, and service design methodologies put this in the focus. Service design as a methodology has a six-step process, starting with the understanding of needs, strengths, and then thinking about potential solutions, followed by generating ideas, filtering these ideas, planning solutions, and finally realizing solutions, which in the case of services means a service blueprint or specification. All of these steps are delivered in a co-creation process, thus together with the client and its employees. Understanding user needs has some specific techniques, which are used in workplace service design, and these include the mapping of user journeys through services and the workplace, the mapping of touchpoints between users and services, and mapping of user personas or service archetypes. Who are the actors in providing these workplace services? Well, relationships in workplace services are multifold, meaning in addition to the client, end users are often in direct contact with the service provider. And also, the various suppliers can be in touch with both the client and the end users. The service provision can be in-house or outsourced, or both at the same time. In case of outsourcing the control of services, the so-called intelligent client function ought to remain internally, including the planning, the controlling, and the analysis of the services. Outsourced services can be provided by one supplier covering the full range of services. This is total or integrated FM, or in groups of services managed or coordinated by an agent or by several suppliers directly managed by the client. What is the current distribution of the service market between these actors? The market report of Global FM in 2018 estimated the value of the global market at $1.15 trillion. Out of this, outsourced services represented $548 billion, while inside this segment, integrated FM sums up to 11.5%. And also, the top 5 global FM providers had a combined market share of nearly 14%. The facilities market itself, as such, has seen a steady growth since 2016, and the continued increase was predicted. But there are significant differences between regional markets. Globally speaking, contract globalization, service integration, and inclusion of value-added services were driving the market growth, while in developing countries, growth was driven by the demands of multinational corporations. Workplace service management relies on a sound sourcing and contract management process. The proper sourcing process connects business objectives, user needs, and requirements with contractual requirements. At the time of supplier selection, clients will have to rely on the service specification and how suppliers' capacities and capabilities can fulfill it. Contract management covers change control procedures, incident management, contract administration, cost and performance monitoring and payment. If payment is related to performance, key performance indicators are monitored on a continuous basis, and whether they conform to the levels set in the service level agreements. Finally, it is important to mention that there is a relationship and a trade-off between space and service management. A distributed workforce is using various alternative workspaces beyond the traditional head office, which are offered or supported by services, such as virtual environment, co-working hubs, or a voucher to a coffee shop where you can work. Therefore, these different types of services can contribute to the optimization of space as well as space and real estate costs. If you're interested in this subject in more depth, you can find more information in the course book, including further literature, and below you can find some videos that you might find useful to understand the subject better. Thank you for your time and attention, and I wish you a good journey in the world of services.